Hello, everyone. It's George from Ireland. Well, there's something rotten in South Asia, and that is there's a terrible stink in relations between India and Pakistan. So, of course, Pakistan was part of India until 1947. Then there was a partition of India to create a homeland for the Mohammedans. Pakistan, I won't give you a blow by blow account, but they fought three full scale wars. And then since about 1990, there's been intermittent conflict in Jammu and Kashmir, that northernmost state of India, which Pakistan also claims. Pakistan rules a third of it and calls it Azad Kashmir, as in free Kashmir. India rules two-thirds of it, is the only Muslim majority state in India. So Pakistan claims to recognize Jammu and Kashmir as an independent country. Nevertheless, the Pakistani controlled area of Jammu and Kashmir is represented in the Pakistani parliament. But it goes back to Pakistani backed terrorists killing 26 civilians in Jammu and Kashmir. And they very often do this. So there's the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Force, Hizb ut Tahrir, and various other Islamist terrorist organizations which have bases in Pakistan. I remember in Islamabad and Rawalpindi years ago, I saw JKLF cell meaning like office, and our donation boxes. So they openly solicit money, and we know that the Pakistani government is behind it, and the ISI, that's Inter Services Intelligence, Pakistani's spying organization, they're behind it. They arm, train, fund, direct, provide intelligence to them, and they're often people from Pakistan proper, not Jammu and Kashmir, are doing this. So they've carried out terrorist attacks within India for decades. So obviously, feeling is running high. India is are not happy about 26 of its civilians being murdered. Now, even if you believe that Jammu and Kashmir belongs to Pakistan or is independent, even if you believe its fighting is justified, all right, it is not justified to deliberately kill civilians. That is murder. Whether this is a legitimate campaign of resistance or whatever, whether they are freedom fighters, all right, even then, they're not allowed to go out of their way to kill civilians. So they're doing it out of sheer cruelty, out of anti Hindu bigotry. Obviously, most Indians are Hindus, a desire to collapse the economy, because until the 90s, Jammu and Kashmir attracted a lot of tourists from the rest of India and from overseas. But people are too frightened off, and there's some people who braved it. When I went to India, I never dared do it. So, and then diplomats have been expelled. There's some Pakistanis who have visas to live and work in India, visiting relatives, whatever. They've all been told to leave within 48 hours, and so on. So Islamabad has denied any role in the attack. And it's true they might not have ordered this particular one, but they're behind the overall movement and so on. So it took place in Pahalgam. So India's often proved very restrained. I remember November 2008 in Mumbai, the Taj Mahal Hotel, India's foremost hotel, right there by the gateway of India, an attack there, and about 200 civilians were murdered by Pakistani-backed terrorists. Some of them actually were Pakistani, and all but one of them died in the effort. But anyway, the feelings are running high, and India didn't hit back. Well, I mean, I would if I was them, because if you don't hit back, they're not going to stop. They're not going to do it again. So it doesn't have to be full scale war ground invasion. That would be too tricky. You'd be bogged down for years. You could just have fire some missiles over, sink some warships. You could have air raids on whatever military targets. Unlike the Pakistanis go for military targets, you could even hit the economy by blowing up whatever's oil refineries, what oil is, something like that. Just because obviously the Mumbai, India's biggest city, was paralyzed for a couple of days because of these terrorist attacks. Now I know 200 people, India city of 10 million, you think it's not that big, but had not been for India's counter-terrorist police responding so well, the death toll would have been much, much higher, and so on. So the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, he's obviously not happy about this. Now, I mean, just because the Pakistani government is bad, that doesn't mean that Prime Minister Modi is good. No, he's certainly not. He's promoted anti-Muslim prejudice, and there are many videos you can see online of Muslims being harassed, being verbally abused, being assaulted, and likewise even Christians, people trying to disrupt Muslim and Christian prayer and things like that. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Hinduism. No one should be mistreated for belonging to any religion, and obviously that includes Hinduism. Pakistani Hindus and Sikhs have a very, very hard time, and Christians too. Okay, they can be false accused of defaming the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blamings upon him, which is a death penalty offense, and so on. So they, little girls, teenage girls, get kidnapped, get married off to a man older than her grandfather, just because they're Sikh or Hindu or something, and no one's going to intervene. So they're severely discriminated against. I had a good friend who's a Pakistani Muslim and said, "Yeah, I'm afraid to say that the non-Muslims they are very badly discriminated against, or even Mohammedans of the wrong denomination. They happen to be Shia rather than the majority Sunni." So Pakistan's got nothing to hold it together, really, apart from anti-Indian prejudice. But India has found a way to hit back. The Indus Water Treaty, which in 1960 they said they agreed that they would not interfere with the flow of water to Pakistan. Pakistan's got an awful lot of farmers now. India could divert a lot of this water, and it could wreck Pakistani agriculture, and so on. So the gunmen, they have so far not been apprehended. Anyway, Pakistan's National Security Council met yesterday, as in they're putting themselves in a state of readiness in case there is a full-scale war. Pakistan needs this from time to time to distract from domestic discontents, from terrible poverty, from peculation, from the worst pollution in the world. And obviously, there are many good Pakistanis, and I feel very sorry for them. They want to get out. Is one of the lowest rated passports in the world. It's very, very difficult to get visas for anywhere. And the wealthy get their money out of the country, and the dysfunctionality of the country is almost total. It's very, very sad. Open sewers, and there is enough public money to deal with this problem, but often it's stolen by politicians and civil servants. And if ever opium was religion was the opium people, it's here, diverting their attention or trying to palliate their suffering with the Islamic faith. You want to believe in Islam, you want to practice Islam fervently, fine. I certainly wouldn't stand in your way. But saying, well, we're the Islamic Republic, is really no solution for the problems of impecuniosity, of terrible air quality, and a lot of public money being stolen, and so on. And a lot of children never get to go to school for a single day, of violence against women, and so on, of honor killings. It's just horrific. And obviously, there are Pakistanis who recognize these problems and really like to solve them. And one thing Pakistan does not desperately need is more land. It just really doesn't need more of Jammu and Kashmir. I would obviously like there to be some sort of peaceful solution to this dispute. Give it all back to India, right, as the United Nations voted for, then a referendum to determine the future of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, but the Pakistani said, well, India, you've never allowed a referendum when Jammu and Kashmir will determine their own future. But the India said, yes, well, that's because you never withdrew. The United Nations said you've got Pakistan must withdraw, then the referendum can be held. But the demographics of Jammu and Kashmir have changed because the pro-Pakistani terrorists have murdered so many civilians, Hindus where they can get them, and Muslims who they think don't want to be part of Pakistan. So these people they haven't been killed; they've fled south to other Indian states. So that those who remain are much more pro-Pakistan than people were before. So that it wouldn't be a fair result, because the sort of Pakistan has managed to load the dice by stampeding out of Jammu and Kashmir anyone not sympathetic to their position. Well, goodness, I wish it were better. I'm very glad to live in peace. And obviously, India is entitled to hit back. I just hope they do so proportionately. And it's not to say that India's never done anything bad in Pakistan. I mean, it has. That Baluchistan independence movement, does India have a hand in that? Very likely it does. Or they might say, well, you can't blame them. Tit for tat. You did it to us, so we'll give you a taste of your own medicine. Goodbye.